Welcome to the Claws Out podcast. We are live, not at the Mic'd Up studio in Parramatta tonight. We come to you via our homes, via StreamYard, my favourite service, Gary. But it's Gary, Steve, and Junior in the house to discuss the West Tigers' 32 points to nil loss to the Bulldogs last night at iChoice Stadium at Homebush. Gary, you've been quite unusually, I'd say a bit grumpy, a bit negative with the club and the team the past couple of weeks. So was last night a surprise to you?
I wouldn't say it was a surprise. I was hoping for better. But I said on the Hear Her Raw podcast on Thursday afternoon that I thought we'd been the worst side in the competition over the past 6 weeks. And we definitely showed that on last night. We were very clearly the worst side in the competition last night.
Steve, I remember a couple of weeks ago in studio, you had steam coming out of your ears after we lost to the Dragons. Are you still at that level of anger, or you were like me and just become a little bit numb to it all?
No, mate, I'm just fed up with it. Really, I don't have the energy to be angry about it. It was, I gotta give you a pat on the back, Eddie. Because I've been critical of you in the chat when you've been saying this is where we're going to finish bottom four. We're going to finish bottom four, and I'm saying, mate, have some positivity. But you know what, Eddie, you've been on the money all year, 100% correct. It's finishing the way you said it would.
Yeah, well, I don't want to rub it in because I'd much rather be wrong in that case. But it looks like we are headed towards a bottom four finish. Junior, I imagine that was a very grim watch for you last night. Were you numb to it like me, or were you getting the shits and very animated watching that drubbing?
No, I was getting the shits. I always get the shits when we play the Bulldogs. Even when we're winning, I get the shits. I just don't like watching the Bulldogs play at all. So when we're playing them, I'm obviously forced to do that. Losing that game, that's like losing a grand final for me. I think I said to Mum and Dad before the game started, because I was watching at their place, I would take a loss by 50 every week for the rest of the season if it means winning last night. So yeah, pretty ropeable after that one.
Well, whilst we're giving each other raps, Gary, I'll give you a rap. You were out there last night, I believe the only one of us, including Coach and Rob, who are going to be up next on a special debate edition of Coach's Report. But how was it out at iChoice Stadium? I imagine fairly miserable 80 minutes.
Yeah, I was out there with Shane and Jay from West Tigers Life. So the company was good, but it's a crap stadium. It was a crap performance, and it was just a crap night. Sorry to the people who I was out there with, because, it was just horrible out there. Did not enjoy one moment of my night out at the football last night. It was a dour performance from our club, an unacceptable performance from our club. And to be quite frank, 15 years of this, we're just a joke of a club.
Like a Tiger moment. We'll keep doing this, boys, because like a Tiger moment can be anything. It doesn't have to be something from the game. It doesn't have to be anything to do with rugby league. It can be something quite ironic. It can be positive. So it's been negative the last couple of weeks. But Steve, I'll start with you.
All right. Well, mate, saying you've extended it, I'd like to just introduce everyone to my new third-party sponsor, Coca-Cola. So they're now my third-party sponsor. I'm on board with them. Now, I'm not sure which podcast I'll be representing, but wherever I go, I'll have Coca-Cola as my third-party sponsor. So that's my Like a Tiger moment.
Okay, now you've completely thrown me with that, but I assume that's a shot either at Luai or the club. Do you want to explain that a little bit, or do you want to just keep it cryptic?
Well, no, that's just what we do at West Tigers. We just get whatever we can and go for it.
Junior, you're Like a Tiger moment.
It was 12 slapping salmon for me. It's about time someone at the club showed a little bit of heart, and obviously 32-0 down on the scoreboard, frustrated, not having anything really go the way, team playing like shit. And I think it's about time we see in the NRL, if a small guy is going to act tough to a big prop, they deserve a whack across the head. I just wish it was closed fist.
I'm with you there. We can't address all the comments on the chat, but they do pop up when we're on StreamYard. So, Gary, I just saw one pop up saying, joke of a club. That's basically a bit harsh, Gary, considering all the injuries. You want to address that?
Yeah, I saw that pop up as well. What I will say is I was willing to excuse some of our form earlier in the season due to injuries. I think that was quite justified. I think injuries played a part in our slump earlier in the season. We don't have that many injuries at the moment. We've got a couple of key players out, KPP and Taylor May being the prime examples of that. But that performance was substandard from a Bulldog side that hasn't played great football the last month. That was a substandard performance last night. That was a wooden spoon level performance last night. And in my eyes, that performance we saw last night was as poor as any of our wooden spoon seasons. A lot of performances in those seasons. So I'm not going to use injuries to excuse what we saw last night. And if the club comes out and tries to use injuries as an excuse for what we saw last night, I think that would highlight them being a joke of the club. And any fan that wants to use injuries as an excuse for last night, I think you're way off the mark.
Okay, well, I'll try and keep it reasonably positive, although it's a little bit ironic. My like a tiger moment was just Appy Coruscant sitting there with a black eye in the press conference after the game, just looking completely helpless. I think there was a moment, probably 5 minutes to go, where he rushed back and saved the try by batting the ball dead in the end goal. So I think Appy's a champion, and I feel sorry for him. But, Steve, there's no way of sugarcoating us. I'm actually going to swear now. Like, what the fuck has happened to this team over the last couple of months?
Well, okay, the first thing is definitely injury. All right, we all came with injury earlier in the season, and when we started to lose games, I think we started to lose confidence. So that's the second thing that's happened. The confidence is at an all-time low. Right? If I'm fair income about it and not being sarcastic and cynical, they did have a go last night. They were still trying. You know, I'd say the second half especially, that they started pretty slow. We'll get into that later, I reckon. It's not what you're asking me. So that's happened. But what overrides all that for me is that this club's total inability to handle any level of adversity, right? Now, we've been faced with a fair degree of adversity this year. I've just mentioned two of them, you know, like the injuries, the young squad, lack of confidence, then the Luai crap that's gone on in the last little while. And when you put all that together, we have been, as a club, unable to overcome that. Like, our resilience is just horrendous at all levels. On the football field, off the football field, any sort of foul wind that blows, right, knocks us off course every single year, right? So, without wanting to go on too much of a rant, I'll just quote you a couple of things here, right? This is last year to this year. We talk about the rebuild, right? If anyone says to me we're in a rebuild, they can shove it up their ass, because we're not, right? So last year, at the exact same time last year, right, we were 12th, we're now 14th. Right, we played 18 games last year. We've played 18 games this year. We'd won 7 last year. We've won 7 this year. We had, you ready for this? We had scored 355 points last year. We've scored 355 points this year. But we've let in 61 more points, 517 points at the moment, and we're on the same points. Our differential is 61 points worse. So if you look at those statistics, right, I know Junior loves a good stat, right? Those stats show you unequivocally, right, that you can't argue that we've actually gone backwards, right? And that's the problem with this club. We can't stick at anything. We can't handle any adversity, whether it's a set of 6 on a try line or pleasing the fan base. And I don't know how anyone in the club can look any of the fans in the eye and say, stick with us, we're on a rebuild, because we're not. We're just on a journey to nowhere.
Oh, well, I know I've asked this before, Junior, but it's the obvious question, and we sort of all played it down at the time, but Jerome's moved to PNG. Like, we had the injuries and we were decimated, and we probably wouldn't have beat anyone regardless of that move at the time. But over the last month, it's pretty clear, you know, that flared up again, the fact that we're getting rid of him. It's pretty clear that something's broken there. And I'm not blaming Jerome. I'm not blaming the club, but I'm just saying the connection and that, you know, will to play for each other and defend like we saw in the first 8 weeks. Also confidence, I grant that, but something's broken there.
100% agree. I think I've been a big defender of Jerome and his performances, but I think last night was what convinced me that it's probably had a toll on the rest of the team. Do I think that that's the fault of Jerome? Not necessarily. I think it actually proves the point that Steve just made. I agree with a lot of what Steve just said, and I'm glad he popped off like that, because I feel like we all kind of need to let a bit of that out. But I just want to give a little bit of context when you're comparing this year and last year. I'm not blaming injuries for what we saw last night, but when we talk about scoring the same amount of points as last year, we have missed most of our spine for around 8 or 9 games this year. Like, that's definitely going to hurt any team's attack. I think where the best spot to judge us is pre the Jerome shit, when there weren't any injuries, which was up until the Canberra game, because we were very lucky and blessed with injuries to that point. I think coincidentally that happened at the same time as Jerome flying to PNG as well. But yeah, I've got to admit now that I'm starting to think in some of the performances that we're seeing and a bit of the disconnect we're seeing from our team, that the decision for him to go to PNG has probably deflated, is probably the correct word, a lot of the players that we've got. So
your take on that, Gary? I mean, do his words, he still speaks well and he's still trying out there, but do his words become a little bit hollow maybe in the dressing room, and we're seeing some players that are just clearly going through the motions out there?
Yeah, I thought last night, watching him at the ground last night, out of anyone on the field, he was the player who was trying to build players up and motivate the players around him more than anyone. Now, I don't know how well that's conveying. It obviously isn't conveying to the other players that well at the moment, because we saw some of those performances and there were some lack of effort performances out on that field last night. So there's definitely issues there. And it seems to be issues that I think over the last month have gotten worse. It appears to me that I know Benji came out last week and said that there hasn't really been any issue with the move. Something doesn't look right amongst our playing group. Something, and I can only speak from the outside looking in. I have no inside knowledge of what's going on amongst the playing group, but something doesn't look right with our playing group. They don't look to be on the same page. They don't look to be fighting together. It just looks off from the outside looking in, and I can only contribute that to some kind of fallout with that move that Jerome Luai has made. And I don't know where that fallout lays, and I don't know where it is, but to me, it looks like it's there. And our performances, especially the last 2 to 3 weeks, I think look really ordinary and really disconnected amongst our squad.
Well, Gary, I reckon that Jerome's greatest strength has now come back to bite him, right? That's what I believe the disconnect to be. And again, just the same as you, it's just an opinion. You know, we've all waxed lyrical since he came to the club, what a great leader he was, and how he was integral in being able to motivate a squad and get a squad to play together, you know, and get out there and fight, right? And I don't think anyone could argue that he doesn't have that ability. We've also said that ability probably outshone his actual playing, you know, the raw playing. But what it looks to me is that he's still trying to do that, right? He's still out there yelling and screaming and trying to bring the boys on. But some of them, I'm not saying all of them, and this again, it's just an opinion, but some of them I reckon are probably looking back at him and saying, well, what the hell are we listening to you for? You told us you were all in. You told us you were here for life. You told us that we're all in this together, and you've jumped ship. I'm not making a judgment on it, right? If I got offered that sort of money, I'd take it, right? Of course, I don't think many people wouldn't, right? But I reckon that's where it's, rightly or wrongly, I reckon that's where it's started.
Junior, on the game itself, the thing that did hurt me is that, like, it's not the first time. It's probably the 5th or 6th time in the first 10 minutes we just completely missed a jump. And I know there was that, poor error from Buller where he let the 40-20 happen, but the Bulldogs' line speed, the Bulldogs' intent, they just simply wanted it more than us. And I thought you could tell that within 10 minutes.
Yeah, 100%. And it's not the first or second time it's happened. We've played 18 games this season, and it's probably the 15th time it's happened. I mean, even when we were 5-2, like look at the New Zealand win, we're down 12-0 after 10 minutes or whatever. Then same against who was it? Parramatta. We're down 2 tries early as well. But to Steve's point, like I'm really agreeing with a lot of what Steve's saying today. I feel like Lua is not getting the response from the players because they're probably feeling like it's a bit hypocritical. Now, I don't share that opinion. That like Steve just said, I probably would have done the same thing in his shoes and all that sort of stuff. But I feel like he's not getting the reaction out of the players. You've only got to look back to round 7 this year when we played the Broncos. We're down in a grinding game and making error after error, and then Appy knocks whoever it was, smashes him into the in goal. Like the boys were playing for each other back then because our leaders were able to get that response. I don't think the boys are responding to the leadership from Luai. I still think his leadership is great. And I feel like a lot of our players are deflated as well. Like, look at Appy. Appy's trying his heart out. I don't think the guy has the energy to even speak on the field. Like, he just looks so beat up. So yeah, I don't know where to from here. That game was really annoying. We started off slow, and then you can tell they had the smoke blown up them at half time because then they came out and the first 10 minutes after half time were fantastic. Like instead of doing one up hit ups, we're going up in 2s and 3s and looking like we're actually going to put a dent into the line. We had good line speed and smashing the dogs at the start of the second half. So I don't know what it is. I hear the same thing in every press conference from Benji of maybe I need to look at how I prepare us and this and that. And I know last night he said we prepared really well, but I'm starting to think, and you guys see it in the chat when we talk with Adel and Dad, but I'm starting to think that maybe there isn't correct preparation because we can only judge the preparation on what we see in the performances. And like if I'm Benji next week when we're playing Parramatta, I'm fucking yelling at everyone before we run out for kickoff just to wake them up. Like it feels like we're asleep every time we come out, and it's just so frustrating as a fan to watch.
It's not just that, Robbie. It's Benji spoke about when Jerome first signed with PNG about that. There was little snide comments in the press conference from Benji about the players not just coming to play with Luai, that they came to play under Benji. And there's been comments from Benji around that over the last couple of years when that kind of conversation about players coming to the club because of Luai. Well, what we're seeing now is that the players aren't playing for Benji either. So I think that makes that side of it a little bit hollow as well. If the players were here to play for Benji as much as he's kind of said they are, then it wouldn't matter that your captain was leaving. You would be going out there and you'd still be putting in 100%. You'd still be fighting to the depth in a situation where if you win all your games, you're still going to play semi-finals football. And we're just not seeing it. Like that performance last night. Now, the Bulldogs, you guys are right. They blew us off the park. Now, it's quite obvious the performance that we put in against them the last 2 times that we've played them, that's had an effect on them. They weren't happy about how we went after them the last 2 games. So they came out really prepared. They came out and they were running the ball hard. They were hitting hard in defense, and they went after us last night. And in that first half, our side went to water. We kind of just gave them whatever they wanted in that first half. And that was the most disappointing part for me. We should have known they were going to show up like that after how the last 2 games have gone. And that should have been how we were preparing. That's the game we should have been preparing to face last night. And we showed up completely unprepared for that style of football.
The thing is, but Gary, even if we were prepared, as much as I can't stand what I'm about to say, I think a lot of credit needs to be given to Canterbury. Don't get me wrong, as a biased supporter, I'll complain about offside all night and all that sort of crap and wrestling in the ruck. And, the referee who debuted last night in our game, not, controlling the game well, as you saw with Simbins and whatnot. But their line speed was incredible. Their contact was incredible. Bailey Haywood is like one of the guys in a tackle against Terrell May, and they're still managing to push him back. They're pushing all our big forward. Twal was getting dominated in hit-ups where it looked like he was running with pace and he's still getting flipped onto his back. Like, they won every tackle almost in that first half. So I think a lot of credit needs to be given to them. So,
But, mate,
like, it doesn't
100%.
excuse not scoring a point against the Bulldogs, because, you know, I know they're a defensive mindset team and all that sort of crap, but yeah, like their performance definitely does need to be credited as well.
100%, mate. They obviously circled this game as one they were looking forward to a couple of months ago. I think probably from the last time we played them, they've been waiting for this return match.
But that's
Yeah,
why
and-
it's so
and
frustrating.
also-
So did we.
Also, look at the ladder, right? Like both teams last night were playing for their season. One team played like it meant something. You know, like that win for the Bulldogs kept them in touch with the top 8. If we had a won, we would be 2 points behind where the Bulldogs are at, but we still have a slight chance. They played like the season was on the line. We played like it was over.
It's quite shocking to watch. Even, like, you know, guys, I keep a close eye on those teams in the bottom 5 or 6. I thought all of them were good this weekend. Like, all of them are playing for something. Gold Coast were good. I thought St George were really good last night, unlucky not to win. Canberra were great against South. Parramatta, I can't even remember if they played this week, but their last couple of performances have been pretty decent. Junior, just a theory I just thought of just then. Got a few names here. Terrell May, Tito Taruva, Jareen Buller. What have they got in common the last couple of months? They all re-signed long-term deals. I'm saying, is that just something that slips into your players get into a comfort zone? They're on more money. They got 4 more years. It's cruisy around Concord. Is that too harsh? But I look at, like, I know Jareen, we're not allowed to criticise Jareen Buller on here, but that was pathetic, that first effort on the 40. I'm sorry, but that
we're
is
allowed.
like, that is no awareness. And someone on it wasn't you on the chat. Someone said, "Oh, the ref called out outside." I don't care if the ref called out whatever. You should be able to see he's kicking that from inside the 40, and to just not, you know, go for that ball. I can't accept that error.
No, I 100% agree. It was a Z grade error. You know, people will probably try. There are people that love Jareen, like myself, who will try and defend him and point out the 200 run meters that he had compared to everyone else and all that sort of stuff. But I don't think it's the re-signing that's made their performances go bad. I think each of them have separate reasons. Terrell May hasn't been the same as the start of the season, and we saw this last year. And this is where I know Adel disagrees with me, but this is where I'll put blame on Benji. Regardless of the injuries that we've had, the plan this season was to reduce Terrell May's minutes and get him playing 60 to 65 max. And there were multiple games in a row where he played 80 minutes or the occasional 77 minutes, like that 3-minute rest did anything. So I think Terrell May's playing on an empty tank. So I give him a pass in returns to slack performances and all that sort of stuff. And he still, you know, makes a lot of tackles, doesn't miss too many, but you can just see he looks a little bit flat. Jareem's obviously playing with the shoulder. I think he's been very cautious of that. Not using it as an excuse. He definitely should have taken that 40-20 kick at the start of the game. But at the same time, I'm going to grab this ball and run it up because I don't want to take a hit up when I've got 4 or 5 guys just that I'm going to be running into. And then the other one you mentioned, Taruva, I think mentally he's probably just a bit exhausted. You know, he tries to bring the energy every week. Like you see when he runs out, he's the one that's jumping 10 feet in the air, screaming at the top of his voice, trying to hype everyone up and be our Brian Toto in how he tries to lift everyone pre-game and bring the energy. And then, you know, like he did it in the Penrith game and then we lose 68-0. He did it last night when he ran out and we lose 32-0. Like, he's probably just a little bit deflated. Like, even I'll add to that list. I'll add Coruscant, and Coruscant's a class player, and he's still been great just because of how elite he is. But you can even see Coruscant's fucking deflated. Like I said earlier, he just looks beat up. Like, as fans, we're sick of this shit. Imagine being a player that wants to win, like Jerome, like Appy, like Adam. Like, people were critical of Adam. Like I said last week in the studio, Adam has a winner's mentality. Like, if you told Adam that he's going to go out and lose. Like, as much as he loves the club, if you told him he's going to lose every game for the rest of his life, he wouldn't want to play for us. He wants to play for a winning team, but he loves our club and he wants our club to win. I think that takes a toll on a player's energy, so...
Gary, your take on those players? I mean, I will qualify it. I think Jareem's been excellent for the last 18 months because I was a big critic in the past, but I do feel like some of our senior guys, I take into account lack of confidence and lack of, like Junior's point's a good one around Tito, constantly trying to lift them and there's nothing there. But some of the form of our best players earlier in the year is poor at the moment.
Yeah, I thought Jareem had his worst game I've probably seen him play last night. I thought Bulldogs got to him on the high balls a lot, and he was under pressure on most bombs he was taking last night. So he was under a lot of pressure, and he made a lot of errors. I haven't seen him drop so many bombs in a game. I give him a little bit of leeway on that first 40-20. Most of the time, a fullback is looking for a call from someone else on whether that was kicked from inside. He's 60 meters away at times when that ball's kicked. So, I give him a little bit of a leeway on that, but he had plenty of time to grab it if he wasn't sure. So, it's probably one he should have grabbed just in case. It was probably his worst game I've seen him play. Terrell May, I don't know why. I've never seen a game where he's had one hit up in a first half, and it may be that he's tired. It may be that there's something else going on, and the turmoil or whatever's going on in the club at the moment's got to him as well. I was very surprised. I wouldn't have been surprised to see him be less effective meter-wise, but the fact that his hit-ups were so low last night is what surprised me the most. Not so much that he had less impact on those hit-ups or he made less meters on those hit-ups. The fact that there were less hit-ups is what probably surprised me most from what I saw from him last night. But he still punched out 40 tackles with zero misses. So there were some positive aspects to his game as well. So I think there's a lot of our senior players who are well below where they were at the start of the season at this point of the season.
All right. Again, plenty of comments. Thank you for all your comments there. If you do see a comment you want to address straight away, just put your hand up and I'll come to you as we go. But
can I put my hand up and address one?
That was quick, Junior.
I might have opened up a Pandora's box here, but I'll give you, at least two hand raises. That's one. Go.
Yeah, Junior, a sore shoulder isn't an excuse. Don't play them. I would prefer to play Jareem Buller without his legs before I play Heath Mason at fullback. So I wasn't making an excuse. I'm just giving a little bit of context or perspective, as Adel would say, as to why he probably didn't want to take a hit up. If he thought they were outside the 40, that's probably why. I still think he should have picked up the ball and taken the hit up. Just trying to see a little bit of reason, but yeah.
See, there's a reason Craig Bellamy goes to the back of the coach's box every 10 minutes and swears his head off. And there's a reason at halftime that he singles out a player and jabs him in the chest and tells him it's not good enough. It's because he's got standards that club live by. And maybe not the best example this year because they've actually fallen down this year. But just listening to our last 10 minutes, we're being very forgiving of our players and giving them lots of reasons why they're not performing. Like we say, Matt, you said, Junior, we're feeling bad. Imagine how the players are feeling. Well, mate, screw that. A few years ago, Taruva was putting premiership rings on. I've been following this shit for 50 years, right? And I've had one day where I can say we're number one, right? And yeah, okay, we're supporters, we're not players, but we get out there and put our hearts on our sleeve and support like nothing else. And it's one of the most important things in our lives. And there's so many of us that's like that. And I reckon these guys are going to take some concrete, and toughen the fuck up. Seriously, like they're getting well paid, and you're not supposed to say that, but it's true. They're getting well paid. They got a job to do. Their loads are managed. It's not like the old days where you just had to play until the arse fell out of your pants, right? Your loads are managed. If your load's too hot during the game, then you have an easier week. As Benji said, he gave him 3 days off last week, so they had a weekend and a flexi last week. right? And they still go out there and perform like that. It's not good enough. At what point does this club turn around and say, we have standards and we're going to live by them? Now, Benji said it, and for the first 5-6 rounds, we probably lived it. But after that, we haven't. And while I've been intimately involved with this club for the last half a dozen years, and sadly, and I love it, and I love the relationship with the club, but sadly, I see it every time. There are no standards of excellence. Everything this club does is mediocre. Absolutely everything. And yet we accept it. Well, fuck it. We can't accept it anymore. They need to change. Otherwise, we are never, ever, ever going to be a serious contender in this premiership.
But Steve, who do you want to blame there? Like we've
Everyone,
gone through
the whole
okay,
organisation, Junior.
Yeah,
The
but
whole organisation.
We've gone through CEOs, we've gone through chairmans, we've gone through coaches, we've gone through player rosters. Yeah, the two things that have stayed common, and I'm not going to bag owners because I think they've got fuck all to do with anything. I don't share the same opinion in regards.
So I'm just going to say one thing, and then I'm going to leave it for Gary because I know he wants to talk about it. I'm not going to steal his thunder.
Say your thing, and then I'll get back to mine.
Yeah, then Gary can go. We fixed it. We fixed this. We got change at the apex of the organisation where it was needed, and then they came in and fucked it up again. All right, that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to let Gary talk about it more. But sorry, Junior, go.
Yeah. No, I was going to say the only thing that stayed common is that, and then the other thing that stayed common is our fans. And Adel's been critical of them. I've been critical of them as well. When we're 5-2, it's all happy days and whatever. And then our players have to read comments when we got winning records about Jerome can fuck off, we've got Jock and this and that, and messaging him personally and all that sort of stuff. And then we're saying, oh, well, why is Jerome depressed when he's on the field and whatever? Like, I'm not making excuses. I'm just trying to tell you what's been constant throughout us being utter shit for the last 20 years. And they're the two things that have been constant because everything else has changed 1,000,001 fucking times. CEOs, chairmen, players, coaches. Mate, we had Michael Maguire. He goes to Brisbane. I know you'll say, oh, they've got a better roster and whatever. If we look at our 1-19, I know depth's an issue, right? Depth is a big issue. But if we look at our 1-19, how many of those players would you change? We all agreed we needed a right centre, which we've signed Avarillo for next year. And we said we want one extra middle. That's what we said. So we all agreed. We're happy with Buller.
And depth.
We're happy with and depth, of course. And this is why I'm saying, I know we like Gary said earlier, we can't blame injuries and whatever, and I'm not blaming injuries. I'm trying to say our first grade side that we have has been held to that standard. And this is where I've been critical of Benji, you know, in our group chat and elsewhere off pod. I don't think that we've done a good job recruiting when it comes to depth. And I don't think we've done a good job of mentoring the people in Cup so that when an opportunity arises, they understand what their role is. I don't understand how someone like, and I'm not saying this guy might be NRL standard in most people's eyes or anything, and I'm not saying it either, but I think he's a good depth player. I don't understand how someone like Charlie Murray can have the preseason and then we can ask him to play 15 minutes a game when we've got fucking 6 injuries and no forwards. And we're using Latu off the bench, Lanyon off the bench, and Skelton's come on for an outside back. So we've really used one middle on a 4-man bench that we can pick from. Like that to me is poor coaching. That to me is poor development in the ranks below Benji as well. And that's where, as an organization, we need to be better. And we've spoken about our assistant coaches and our coaching staff and whatever, and it's Benji and the boys and all that sort of stuff. But we just need to make sure that the standards that Benji set for our best 17 or 19 players is taken all the way through our club, down to the Magpies in Cup, down to the Fleg team, all the way through the entire organization. And I don't think that's been done. I think our standards have stopped after our best 17 players.
The standards of an organisation, Junior, are set from the top down. Now, it's not just the football club standards that are an issue in our club. The standards for the last 5-6 years that Steve and I have been involved across the club are atrocious. Last week, I was speaking to people who were going to West Tigers events, who were going out onto the field for pre-match. They were getting emails at 10 a.m. on the day of an event of where they had to be for an event that afternoon. Now, these are standards throughout our club, not just in the football department. And these standards flow down from the very, very top of our club. And I'm not having a crack at Sean here. I think Sean is doing a good job at where he's sitting at the moment. But we had this fixed. Steve is 100% right. Through a lot of hard work of a lot of people, Steve included, we got change at our club. We got our club to a point where it had an independent board, where directions and standards were being set in our club by professional, competent people. We had a CEO who is regarded as one of the best CEOs in the competition in Shane Richardson. And our club was making progress for the first time in 15 years. We were moving forward. The club posted a profit for the first time in 15 years. We were at a position where Dream Buller at that point in time was about to be re-signed. Jerome Luai's clauses in his contract that has pretty much led to the situation we're in now, regardless of what you think of him as a player, his decision to go to Papua New Guinea couldn't have happened if those clauses were removed, which was about to happen in November of last year. In December, our owners removed the board of our club. They removed the CEO of our club. Well, I'll be clear about that. I'll use the right terminology. Because the board of our club was removed, our CEO, who had it in his contract that he had to work with an independent board because he knew that the Holman Barnes Group board was incompetent and unprofessional. So he put in his contract that if it wasn't an independent board, he could get a full payout of his contract. So he walked away because it was no longer an independent board. So through the actions of the Holman Barnes Group, they got rid of the best CEO we've ever had at our club, a CEO who got our club moving forward, and who had the situation that has now occurred pretty much under control and about to be removed. Now, I've seen posts over the weekend blaming Shane Richardson for putting the clauses into Jerome Luai's contract. That's fair enough. He 100% agreed to those clauses, but he just about had them removed last November. This isn't me just speculating. This is information I have been told, that those clauses were about to be removed. It was also reported in the media at the time that those clauses were about to be removed. This, in my opinion, falls directly on the Holman Barnes Group's head once again. And if you have a look at the short-term history of our club, the last 5 years, there are so many things that they've got involved in our club. And I know you say, Junior, that the owners don't get involved in football clubs. They removed our CEO, mate. The guy who had our club moving forward for the first time in a long, long time. And I think Sean's doing a good job. But Sean isn't Shane Richardson. Sean isn't that hard guy who won't take no for an answer, who will push the way that Shane Richardson did, who will fight for our club the way Shane Richardson did. And that, for me, is a big catalyst to that situation occurring. And I'm sorry, but I know a lot of people won't like what I'm saying right now, and I know I'll get a lot of pushback on that again. But it just can't be allowed to continue to happen. I'm over the Holman Barnes Group absolutely destroying our club and just blowing it up on a whim whenever they want. Last November, there was an air of confidence around our club that I hadn't seen before. And it did come back for a brief period at the start of this season. But I'm over our club being blown up by a whole heap of people who I don't think have any right to be in a position to have control over our club. And Shane Richardson, Sampus 89, was cleared of all wrongdoing. So if you want to say he stole hundreds of thousands of dollars from the club, then you really need to have proof of that, because he was cleared of all wrongdoing. So I'd be very careful of liable statements, even in a chat like that.
Well, that was good, boys. I got a chance to finish my pizza the last 10 minutes. So thanks for those last few chats. Some people would have seen me eating my nice little margarita pizza I've got here. But
Mate, I haven't seen you have a meal while we're doing a pod for a little while.
Yeah, moving on. Someone asked where Rob is, but Rob is up next. So stick around for that, guys, because you think this is gloves off. Rob is not happy with me. Shock horror again. He's not happy with Adel. He's not happy with the team. So he is in the red room live in about 25 minutes. So that will be, hopefully, I was going to use the word exciting, but there's a couple other words I got in mind as well. But Junior, the press conference from Benji, because, he was, to be fair, for the first 12 weeks, talking about standards and talking about we don't accept things. And there were clippings of it in preseason. I thought he was keeping players accountable, dropping them for poor performances. So can we just throw the toys out of the cot and say we've got no standards and we stand for nothing just because we're on this losing run? Or do you think it's more like a whole organization things? And there's, Steve's talking about the membership team and that sort of standards across the board that sees the club fall below the elite NRL clubs?
I've got no idea what the answer is. All I would say in regards to standards is if you're going to replace a player for poor performances, you need to have a player to replace them with. I don't know who, the people that are commenting and all that sort of stuff that aren't happy with, Bulla or Luai or Terrell May. The only question I would ask those people is, who do you want playing in their jersey instead? Because if our next best answer for Jareem Bulla is Heath Mason, if our next best answer for Terrell May is fucking Maverick Gaia, this is what I'm trying to say. Yes, you do have to have standards at a club, but you also need to have people that are prepared to come in and do a job. And
Junior, can I just jump in, mate? One leads into the other, right? Like you talk about. Okay, we've got Samuel Afenu. We're trying to re-sign, right? At the moment, I don't know, we've had another season go to shit because we've let the standards drop. Standards will drop. So therefore, our probability of getting him to stay has now decreased. Would you agree with that? He'd have to be having some second thoughts, right? He might still want to stay, but he would have to be questioning it a little bit, as opposed to if we were sitting on the table right now coming sixth, right? So because we haven't been able to maintain those high standards, right, that's trickled now down at the player level, where it's now more difficult for us to retain a player. And also Avarello, for example, who let's say he hadn't signed on the dotted line and was about to, may just put that pen down and say, listen, I'm just going to wait another couple of weeks and see what's going on. Or, shit, they're not as good as I thought they were. If they want me there, they can have me for an extra 50, 60 grand a season, right? So it all trickles down, mate. It's not separate. It's the same. The standards that you set in the boardroom are the standards that get shown out in the football field. And that's true of any organisation anywhere on the planet. And we don't have the ability to maintain those standards. Benji Marshall, I believe, is an absolute champion who is an honest, forthright thinker, and he's totally honest in his desire to have those standards, right? And what he said at the beginning of the season that got caught on video and got shown everywhere, he believes that to the end, and he tried to maintain that. But this organisation is bigger than Benji Marshall, right? And because of the organisation as a whole that doesn't all row in the same direction, right, the standards have slipped and it's not being maintained, and therefore it affects Benji Marshall's ability to maintain those standards to his players on the football field.
Go on, Junior.
I 100% agree with what you said, but I just don't know how that ties into what I was saying about who we replace the people that
Because
fans
you're talking about replacing, like you're talking at that recruitment level. Well, it just gets harder, right? It gets harder to recruit.
100%, 100%. But and it gets hard to the point of recruiting where if you want to attract a marquee player, you need to put clauses where they can fuck our season every year for the next 4 years potentially, because they want to know that if it does go to shit, they can go elsewhere and start winning football games again, or at least chasing a bigger bag. So yeah,
and that's how we got Luai to the club. We got
100%.
him because we were a shit show. He wanted those clauses, but then Richo had turned us around so bloody fast, right? He did such an amazing job so quickly. As Gary said, he was about to have those, and this is not made up. This was going to happen. Those clauses were coming out.
Right? I was even asked when it was announced that Benji had re-signed as coach. He was asked about the clauses, and you can even see from his response when he said that no, those clauses will be staying in. Like that killed it. That question had been asked a number of times before. It's very obvious for anyone who doesn't believe that those clauses were about to come out. It was very clear.
Gary, do you still have confidence in Benji? Because, like the press conference, like Junior said, it's like he's flogging a dead horse at the moment. He looks like he doesn't have the answers, and that's not a criticism of him. That's just, I think he's probably tried everything over the last 6 weeks, whether that's resting guys or spraying guys or whatever, and there's just no answers at the
moment. I still have a lot of confidence in his ability, and it kind of goes against what I said earlier about looking like players aren't playing for it. I still have confidence that over this preseason, he'll get the boys back up. He'll get them wanting to play, and I have that confidence. That man management side of it, I have complete confidence in him. I'm still worried about the style of football we've played for the majority of the season. I'm still worried about our red zone attack and his ability to fix that, and the ability of his coaching staff to fix that along with him. That's where my concerns come in. I don't want to see Benji Marshall moved on at this point, and I don't think as a club with a guy who we've got contracted till the end of 2030. Nelly said 30. That's a hell of a long contract. But,
thank God we're not here then.
No, I don't think that a guy as a club we can afford to get rid of a coach who got signed to the end of 2030 at this point. So I think we're kind of stuck with Benji Marshall, and I'm okay with that. I am confident in him in that man management role. What I am concerned about is the game management side of it, and he needs more help there. Where as a club, we're going to do something to get him some more help.
Junior, there were a couple of comments really early in the pod around Adam, and we haven't really talked about the game. So if we could sort of just veer towards the game and our attack the last month, I think it's something horrible. 22 points in 4 games. That coincided with Adam's return. I'm not saying it's all about Adam, but are you starting to have any doubts around whether he can be a long-term halfback? Because, again, last night, not necessarily his passes, but there were passes hitting the deck. The guys in the wrong position. They're just incomplete sets. Where do we go for the rest of the season with our attack and heading into 2027?
Well, if it were me, I'd like us to employ an actual attacking coach. I don't know. Is it Hodgson that's in the role, Gary?
Hodjo's in that role, yes.
Love Hodjo, one of my favorite players of all time. If we're talking about moving people on or into another role, I'd be getting a proper attacking coach, because if you look at the way we run shape, how we set up before we run shape, all this sort of stuff, which I've been through 101 times with Adel, and Adel's been through 101 times as well this year. It's not improving at all. Every time Adam does release the ball early enough, when Adam does release the ball early enough when we're running shape, I don't feel Buller is. You want to jump in, Gary?
No. I just want to comment on something someone said. So go to town on that one and just come back to me later.
Yep. I feel every time we do run shape where we try to get Buller out the back, I feel Buller is always way too deep. I feel like our lead line runner never runs at the correct hole. Like there's a purpose when you run a lead line. You're trying to bring the outside defender to come in and help his inside defender to then create space for the person out the back. I feel like when we do that correctly, Buller is then too deep, so that outside defender then has time to also slide over and just we're running out space for the sake of running out space. Our attack looks like shit. It's looked like shit all year. Even when we were winning, it looked like shit. When we were 5-2, a lot of our tries came from breaks from our 40-meter line, halfway line, because we're shifting where teams defend shape differently as opposed to how they defend red zone. I agree with Gary tactically. I don't know if Benji is up to it. I feel like he does need better assistance. Whoever's coaching our defense and attack, like both sides of the ball needs to be better. But I don't know what else to say about it. Like, we can talk about ownership, we can talk about coaching, we can talk about players and effort and all that sort of stuff. I thought in the game last night there was effort there from most of the players. I just think they got absolutely bashed by a Dogs team that were more up for it. I thought how we came out in the second half showed that, someone light a flame up all the players' arse at halftime and they pulled the finger out a little bit. But even when we had good ball, how we used it is terrible. I have never seen a team have to put up 3 torpedo bombs in 3 sets in a row from halfway to just try, hope and pray that the Bulldogs dropped the ball, that we got a lucky bounce so that we could somehow score tries. Like, I've never seen that. Like, you look at other teams, like even the Warriors years and years ago, they were dog shit, but they've always been good at running shape. You look at the Dolphins from their very first year, they were good at running shape. I just don't understand what it is about our players that struggle so badly with shape. I don't know if they're being coached that way. I don't know. It's an outsider looking in. But yeah, to me, I feel like we just need someone to really take control of our attack. I think Adam's got the voice to play in the halves. I think once Luai moves on, I think next year you'll see Adam at 6 and Luai as the halfback in the
Latu.
7.
Latu.
Sorry, Latu, sorry, a bit dyslexic. But yeah, I think you'll see Latu in 7 and Adam in 6 next year. And on a positive note, I've actually got a lot of faith in Latu. I think he showed glimpses of what he can do in the halves last night until he got sin bin for tackling someone around the leg. So, yeah.
Gary,
I just want to address.
Go on.
I just want to address a couple of comments that have just come through. I want to go back to talking football in a moment, but King of Chios, it's really good to see you here. I actually really pleased to see someone who's willing to put a Magpies emblem up on their account. I'm a big supporter. I get out to Lidcombe all the time. This is not a Magpies issue. It's not a Balmain issue, mate. It's a Holland Barnes group issue for me. I got no problem with the Magpies. As I said, I go to Lidcombe. But what it is, you're saying here, Balmain have not provided $1 for the 15 years, the same amount of years we have failed. The other comment was about Balmain not putting any money in. It's got nothing to do with that, mate. The Holland Barnes group does put money into the club. You're correct. The last reported amount they put into the club was $1.7 million. That's for a club that has a salary cap of $12 million. That's for a club that has an operating cost of over $25 million. It's for a club that has membership value of multiple millions of dollars and sponsorship revenue of $4 to $5 million. Mate, the fans are putting in more money than the Holland Barnes group's putting in. The biggest funder of the West Tigers is the West Tigers. And some people will say it's the NRL, but the NRL actually pays the West Tigers. They call it a grant. It's money for content they provide. The West Tigers provides the NRL with content for them to sell to TV stations. And that's going to increase. I was reading in the paper today, it's about $25 million that the NRL is looking to be providing to rugby league teams, NRL teams, in the next broadcast deal. And you think the $1.7 million that the Holman Barnes group put in the West Tigers is a significant contribution? You think that's what's keeping the West Tigers afloat? You think the fact that Balmain Leagues Club hasn't put any money in trumps that?
All right. Gary, thank you. I think point made. No more airtime for King of Churros or whoever he is. But would Adam be your halfback in 2027, Gary?
Adam would be my halfback in 2027. So I agree with Junior. Junior, I know you're pulling a face, but I told you this
Hey,
yesterday.
they weren't in the messages the other day.
You obviously, you're dyslexic also must mean you can't read, because I actually said my plan would be that I'd have Latu I'd have Dewey at 6. You are right. Maybe I'm a bit dyslexic.
No, that's okay.
So
That's okay.
Yeah, next season I'd have Latu at 7, but I'd have Adam at 6, with my plan being to give Andrews 12 to 18 months to really work on his game, and hopefully by the time 2028 starts, that you're looking for a Latu and Andrews halves combination. I've seen a lot of people saying, even in our chat tonight, that we should be going with Latu and Andrews now. Mate, we've tried 2 rookie halves before. We tried Moses and Brooks, and I think part of the reason Brooks didn't develop properly is we played him with a rookie half, and then we swapped and changed his halves throughout his time at the club. I don't want to go with 2 rookie halves at this point in time. And I think Adam Dewey can do a role for us to really get Latu firing next year. And and Michael Penning, Latu looked really nice in the middle of the field last night. I thought what he showed he can play that role as a half last night, and I just think he needs more time there. I don't like how we've developed him so far, how we've moved him from position to position. He's played hooker for us this year. He's played lock for us this year, and he even spent some time last week at centre. That's not how you develop your future halfback, and I think we've heard his development, but I want to see him get this full off season. I'm not even that. I don't even really want him playing halfback the rest of this season. I'd love to see him get half get this full off season and get the structures around him and get him in that role all this off season and all this preseason training in that halfback role, and get him ready to hit the ground running next year. So I would be going with Latu and Dewey next year.
All right. Well, Gary, you've used up your two uses of the messages that come up on the screen. Steve, you've still got.
They were good uses, though. They were good uses.
No, they were long uses. I'll give you that. But Steve, the outside backs last night, was there any? I thought Macassini the last couple of weeks in a well-beaten side.
Yeah,
you certainly can't doubt his effort.
Yeah, no, I like if we're talking about like the back five. Like Buller had one of his worst games, but he's still a quality player. And I saw a couple of comments there about him shouldn't be a number one. He absolutely should be a number one. He's a very good footballer. I actually thought that was probably the best part of our game is our back five. So winger, centre, and fullback, bringing it out. We actually brought it out off their line pretty well, considering how pumped up they were. Like Junior said earlier, their line speed was pretty full on. So I think our back five were good. You couldn't expect much in a you couldn't expect much because we were getting smashed in the ruck. So it makes it hard for the outside backs. But defensively, it just continues to be a massive issue. Right, we just get thrown out of our defensive positioning so easily. Usually it's our right. Our right is worse than our left, but it was both. It was both last night. And it wasn't even, they didn't even have to set up for it, right, Cam? They didn't even have to throw multiple sets or complex plays or multiple runner at us. We just collapsed in so easily and left the gap on the outside of the last man just as a matter of consequence, right? They didn't have to do anything for it. And that's been a problem since day dot, right? It's been a problem for years for us.
Junior, I mean, Skelton and Toa, I assume they're both, well, Toa's definitely not going to be here next year. And Skelton, you wouldn't think he's going to be here. Obviously, you've got to have better guys to replace him, because I'm not just saying play kids and whatever, because that can be equally as damaging if you bring him in too soon. But, Tavana's not my favourite player in the world, but surely the fact we can't score a point, he would at least be someone that has to come into contention, doesn't he? Just because of his aerial prowess in attack.
For the rest of the year, yeah, and then obviously next year he'll be
Even
part
Junior
of the
Tupou. What about Junior? Is it Junior Tupou? Is that his
Yeah.
name?
yeah. Again, they're not anyone that's gonna set the world on fire. I feel like with how beat our forwards get in the bad games, it probably, I know what you're talking about, having an aerial threat with Tavana just for some points, but I think you also got to look at it. If we're getting bashed the way we did last night and we're making 30 meters to their 40 meters every time, I think having someone like Skelton at least helps put a little bit of a dent in the line. Like, could you imagine how far back Tavana is going to get dragged the way the Bulldogs were hitting last night compared to Skelton? So I think that's a Benji decision. Like, he's got to work out, what do I want from my outside backs? Do I want someone who's smaller but going to be more of an aerial threat for when we do get to the red zone, or do I want someone that's going to help our yardage? And I think if you look at the build of our team at the moment and the troops that we have available and that we're naming, I think Skelton should get the spot over Tavana in that respect, because his yardage is more important than having someone we can kick to and hope.
Gary, are you making any changes to the outside backs next week?
Oh, hey, there's not a lot you can actually do because I don't think there's a lot sitting there. So I think Benji probably.
But you don't think Junior Tupou? I mean, he's contracted for next year. Surely him and Tavana, now we definitely can't play final. Surely they have to come into contention, don't they?
Seriously, do you remember what Junior was like when he was here before?
No, but I'm just saying they're part of the future of this club. I'm not saying they should be, but I'm assuming
they're part of the future.
They've been put back and they're under contract.
They're part of the future as depth, but
but what are Skelton and Toa?
Well, yeah, fair. But like next year, the back five is going to be Bulla with Taruva and Makasini on the wings and Taylor May and Avarillo at the centers. Like, Tavana and Skelton aren't going to get a look unless someone's dead or injured. Like,
which has happened a lot this year.
Yeah, it has happened a lot this year. But I just think right now, like, out of Tupu, Tavana, Skelton is a better option, just in my opinion. If any of them could play center, I know a lot of people in the comments talking about Sakuru playing center and stuff like that. I wouldn't mind seeing Sakuru come in for Toa. Like, I'm of the belief if someone's not going to be at the club next year, like, a lot of people are asking for Lua to be dropped just because he's not part of the future plans and blood new halves now. I can, with the season dead and buried now, I can appreciate that. Now, with Adam and Latu suspended for the next 2 or 3 weeks, probably not, because I don't want to see Jock and Javon together. But yeah, I can appreciate the logic of, if someone's not going to be here, get him out of the way. So if any of those outside backs can play center, I wouldn't mind dropping Strathfield, just because he's going to be playing for Manly next year. It's the same reason we got rid of Luke Lauliti.
You know what I'd be giving consideration to, and I don't know. You may argue, and probably fairly, that it's too early to say this, but I reckon now that we're out of the running for the 8, like, I know you don't want to give up on the season, but if we've got blokes that require surgery in the off season, and if they wait until the end of the season and then they have their surgery and then they have their recovery, which means they miss half of the preseason, I'd be bringing that surgery forward to whenever, so that they can be, so they are ready to be running on field first day of preseason. Why have them sit in the grandstands for the first 3-4 weeks of preseason, and then we're underdone to start next season?
Even worse, Steve. I don't know this is selfish, but even worse, have them go into the World Cup banged up.
Oh yeah, screw the World Cup. That doesn't even come into consideration. Like the West Tigers pay their wage for 90% of their wage. So if they need surgery, they've got to go have it now. That's my view.
My concern with that, Steve,
I agree with that, Steve.
My only concern is I think I can see us going to the end of the season without a win, and what that does to the club and what that does to the belief around the club concerns me. I would like to see us get a couple of wins between now and the end of the season, and if we're seeing Buller off
at the expense of 3 or 4 players out round 1 next year.
It depends if they're going to be out round 1 next year, though. It depends how.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
What the recovery time is.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, go and get the surgery, like map it backwards so they're ready round 1, and whenever that comes back to, if that means in 2 weeks' time they have to have surgery, do it. And at least we have an excuse for losing every game to the end of the season then.
I'll be interested. I'll get coach's take on it next because he pushed back on me when I said that, especially Jareem, who I believe has dislocated the shoulder or subluxed it at very least twice this year. I would be putting him away for the rest of the year. Adam may be a different case because he's only done it once, but it is a shorter turnaround this year. They're in Vegas in February, so and if they're at World Cup or whatever, so I would be looking at that big time in the next 3 or 4 weeks, and I think we're going to, sadly, hate to say it, I think we're going to lose regardless of who we got on the field for the next 6 weeks.
I don't want to get beat by 60 every week either, though.
No, but I mean, we're getting beat by 30 anyway at the moment. Forwards, Junior, were there any positives out there last night from the forward pack, off the bench or anything like that? I can't think off the top of my head. It's been good to see Samuela out there the last couple of weeks.
12.
Yeah, I thought 12 had a dig. I think he always has a dig. He's really. I got laughed at on our end of season review last year, if you remember, by Adel when I praised 12 for his leadership, and I think this year that's really come to fruition. So yeah,
I think you just got lucky on that. You just got lucky, mate.
No, I'm a good judge,
lucky.
Gary. I learned off you, mate.
You got lucky.
But Ethan Roberts, I didn't mind Ethan Roberts. A couple of his carries. You can see he looks for the offload a bit as well. I think there's promising signs there for him to be a depth player. He offers more than some of the other guys that we've tried, like Gaia, Suka. So I thought that's a positive. I'm kind of clutching, I guess, but in a 32-0 loss, there's not much you can look forward to. But yeah, from the forward pack, that's all I can really point out.
Anyone want to give a 3-2-1 or Gary, best on ground last night?
Yeah, I'll give a 3-2-1. I give 3 to KPP, 2 to Royce Hunt, and I'll give 1 to Latu Fain. I'll give 1 to Twiley for actually having a bit of fire.
Steve?
Yeah, 12 Latu and Happy. That's 3-2-1.
Junior?
Can't disagree with what Steve just said.
All night, Junior.
Well,
Steve, you're on fire tonight, mate, and I love the passion as well. I know we might not agree 100% on why things go wrong and all that sort of stuff, but you summed it up pretty well tonight, Steve. So really well done.
First time for everything, hey, Junior.
No. Well, I missed podcasting with Steve, so
yeah. Well, I'm about to switch from my juice over here to the vodka, I think, because Rob is about to come in live from the Red Room in about 5 minutes' time on Coach's Report, which is going to be a debate between Adel and Rob on about 3 or 4 key topics. So thank you, boys. I'm sure you'll be watching that, whether it's now or later on. And it's going to be a spicy one. But hopefully, Gary, we'll be back. Well, I won't be back in the studio on Tuesday because I've got cricket resuming every Tuesday now until the end of mankind, pretty much.
You keep saying you're the hardest worker here. As soon as there's something else, you disappear.
Mate, I've done about 67 podcasts in a row, and Adele will like me using that number, 67.
What are your third parties like, Eddie, with cricket? They're pretty good?
Yeah, I don't have any first parties, let alone third parties, so I'm not sure about that. But, boys, I hope we're on Tuesday. We're no guarantee what's happening with the studio on Tuesday, so we will keep you updated. But we'll certainly be back every Sunday for the rest of the year, at least with a show, hopefully with 2. And boys, it's been good fun. It's been fiery tonight, but very honest as usual. So thank you all.
Thanks, boys.